Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name's Travis.
And I'm Patrick with a special guest today.
Oh, is that it? I missed my cue. I'm like, I thought you were going to say more. Hi, I'm Christopher Maverick. You can call me Mav. Nice to be here. I am excited about this episode because this was kind of a joke, but okay.
Oh, thank God. Okay. I thought this was like a treasured childhood memory or...
Oh, God, no.
Your dead grandmother's favorite movie. I didn't know what was going on.
I wonder if my grandma would have liked this movie. I don't think she would have. I don't think this would have been her cup of tea. She would have just been like, Christopher, why are you watching this?
Why do you keep watching the opening sequence over and over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Welcome, Chris. And
Mav, please. It's Mav.
Okay.
But Christopher is like literally my grandparents called me that, and
gotcha.
I think I'm in trouble whenever I hear it still.
I mean,
yeah.
After Top Gun, Mav's way better than Chris.
You got a name like Maverick, you're going to use it, you know.
Yeah.
So. Well, yeah, like you mentioned, this was kind of started out as a joke. I think I sent you the list of our movies, and I think at the time, Barb Wire...
You didn't have this on there.
Yeah, I think we had it on the list at one point, but then the list I sent you, it wasn't on there. Somehow we got to talking about Barb Wire, and you had said like, oh, it needs to be on the list. It counts, right? It's a comic book movie, and I was like, oh, challenge accepted, you know. So
well, I think you, when you gave me the list, you're like, I think you had been modifying it, and you're like, oh, we took there were a couple that you took off.
Yeah.
So like, Barb Wire we removed, and I was just like, cowards.
Oh, that's
you're
right.
Cowards. And you're like, you want to do it? I'm like, sure, okay, I'll do. I've seen it before. Initial review without spoilers, just very beginning. This is not as bad as people say it is. It's not a good movie, but it's not. People talk about this like it's absolute garbage. I have seen far worse films.
Right. I kind of am in that boat with you. It wasn't the worst movie I've seen. I enjoyed parts of it.
I bet you did. Jeez.
Oh, those first 5 minutes.
Oh man. Yeah. So let's talk. Well, let me. I have some thoughts from some other folks online. I'll share here at the top, and then. From Rick Ingham from Mad Max Minute, he says it's just Casablanca in fetish gear, which after going through the Wikipedia, I think that's he's kind of quoting Roger Ebert there.
Yes.
In his initial review, compared the plot as being the same as Casablanca. So. So that was interesting to kind of have in my head going into it.
Just a quick thing. I've never seen Casablanca.
I haven't either.
So
okay, had either of you ever seen this movie before?
I'd seen it once. We'll get into our history of it here in a minute.
Okay, but you haven't seen Casablanca.
Yeah.
It's exactly Casablanca.
Okay.
If you ever watch Casablanca, it's exactly like scene for scene.
Okay.
It's I mean it's not like it's suddenly inspired by.
Sure.
No, this is they clearly were like, oh, what if we did Casablanca but with Pam Anderson? That's like clearly what the filmmakers had going on in mind. It's a scene. It's some of the shots are redos. Sure. I mean, it's obviously not as, there's obvious changes, but it's clearly Casablanca.
I'm gonna have to check out the Humphrey Bogart striptease scene at the beginning.
Oh yeah,
then. That'll be
far better.
Or him on the porch with his leg up.
Yeah, Bogey working the pole. Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, that scene's not there, but yes, it is very much a Casablanca ripoff.
Yeah.
Or
my
homage.
concern with that is now I'm going to see Casablanca and think, hey, this is like Barb Wire.
Right. Well, now I don't need to watch Casablanca now.
Yeah. All right.
One other thought we have from Nate Withrow from he is at flighttightsandmovienights.com. And he says, the biggest thing I remember about this, aside from Jack Noseworthy being from the short-lived MTV series Dead at 21, is the unrated version opened with the least sexy striptease I've ever seen. And at the time, you had to work hard to make Pamela Anderson unsexy. So I don't know if that's a unrated version thing, because this is the only version I've ever seen was kind of this same version with the striptease at the start. So
they both have it.
Okay.
There is a shorter. I don't know which version you have. So there is a shorter cut. The unrated version, her striptease is a full. It starts almost exactly 1 minute in. It's like 58 seconds in, and it runs for 4 minutes on the dot. I have timed it out.
Wow.
It is a 4-minute scene of the entire film, including credits, is 100 and it's 100 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Without the credits, it's 95 minutes from start to finish. So this is a full 4% of the film. Is just this opening montage of her, let's call it stripping, while a guy holds a fire hose on her.
Yeah,
brilliant filmmaking.
Just cinema at its best.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I wrote down nip slipping instead of stripping. That's essentially what it was the whole time.
Yeah. Let's do our history. Mine's easy. I watched this at a friend's house because he had, Showtime, HBO, Cinemax, whichever, and we were 13, and had the pause button and the rewind button at the ready, so that's how I watched it. I mean, no lasting memories other than kind of the opening scene over the years. I mean, it's kind of a movie I'd forgotten about. I might have watched it one other time, but I could be thinking about, like, I've definitely listened to other podcasts talk about this movie, like How Did This Get Made? Some other comedy podcasts talking about this. So it kind of, it's a movie I might have seen twice, but I guess now I've definitely seen twice. How about you guys?
I've seen this many times. I saw it when it came out. I probably saw it in the theaters. I'm old enough that I would have been in college when this came out. And this movie comes up in my doctoral dissertation. At length, I talk about this film because my dissertation's on comic book superheroes and adaptations and the way that sex is used in comic books and in movies. So this was super relevant. It is, and I've had to watch it for, there's one of my favorite scholars, not to get too pseudo academic, that's my show. But there's this guy named Jeff Brown who writes about this movie, and Jeffrey Brown is a professor at Bowling Green, and he writes that this film is, he argues it is one of the most important films in the history of action movies because of how it uses sexuality and violence at the same time, because of who Pam Anderson is. And so I watched it when I read his book, and then I was like, really? Let me go revisit this. And then I rewatched it thinking about what he had said, and I see where he's going with it. I think there's a lot of important stuff that happens in this film. So then when I ended up doing my own dissertation, I went back and I watched it yet again, and I've watched it again yesterday twice in order to prepare for this and make some notes. To say I watched it twice yesterday is generous. I was doing other things at the time. I was like grading papers and stuff, but I was like, oh yeah, I need to talk about that too. So there's a lot of but I've seen this several times, walking through and looking at scene details and comparing it to Casablanca. There's a lot going on in this movie, and again, it's not good. I don't want to. I'm not going to do like a whole gimmick where I like pretend this is great cinema and your listeners are like, what is he smoking? No, it's not that. It's a bad movie, but I think there are good things that happen in it, and I don't think it's as bad as its rep is. I think there are lots of modern superhero movies that frankly aren't really much better than this, and they have better production value, obviously. And Pam's not the greatest actress at that at that point, certainly not. And she's not the greatest actress now, but I mean, but this is her first starring role.
Right.
She's on Baywatch already, and she's done. You talked about like Cinemax Showtime movies. She's done a movie called Raw Justice and a movie called Snapdragon.
Oh,
Neither
yeah.
neither of which are cinematically. They're both direct to video, and those are movies about seeing Pam's boobs.
Sure.
That's what those are about. And a lot of that is this, right? Like I get that, right? But I think she's trying here. I think she's trying really hard to be an action star.
Yeah.
And given what she's up against, there's there's no MCU in 1996, right? Like there's not really a Star Wars. Like this is a fine thing for what it is.
Right
That
on.
nobody saw it. It bombed.
Yeah.
It had.
Oh, yeah.
It got like. I mean, it bombed. It got like a 27%. Rotten Tomatoes
Mhm.
wasn't there, but like it's critically panned. And I think it made $3.5 million on a $9 million
Right.
budget, like worldwide. It's really awful.
Yikes.
Patrick, what about you? What do you remember?
I remember the like advertising for it. It was probably like MTV or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because this would have been Tommy Lee era. Pam.
Sure.
Yes.
But I didn't really watch it until maybe 4 or 5 years later in college. More as like a movie club for just like random stuff that
Sure.
people wanted to watch. Like it usually wasn't good stuff,
Yeah.
but just to sit around and laugh and just hang out. So I remember, well, what I didn't remember is how much you can see, because I never saw it in HD until yesterday.
Oh.
Oh wow.
So it must have been really grainy on VHS, because I didn't remember seeing as much of Pam as I saw yesterday. But I remember at the time just having fun with it.
Sure.
I mean, it's ridiculous, and Pam Anderson's like basically Harrison Ford, and
Yeah.
so I didn't hate what she was doing. I'm sure that's what she was told to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's wooden and horrible, but it's also kind of what they were going for, I hope.
Yeah. Performance-wise, I don't think she's doing, that dissimilar a job from a lot of the action, the male action stars that we've seen. Judge Dredd, Time Cop, Predator. Like she's, I think, as a she's trying to play the tough badass chick. I think she does okay, like as that.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Where she's kind of gruff and quiet for a lot of it. Like I think she kind of pulls that off in a few spots. So
yeah, I mean, it didn't bother me. They're not asking her for range in this part.
Yeah,
it's weird that they thought she could lead a film, but
How old were you guys when this came out?
I was 13.
She was
13.
okay.
Yeah, I was like 15. But I mean,
well, she's a huge star at this point. So she she had made these 2 direct to video things, and she was on
Home
Baywatch
Improvement
and Home Improvement. And she was on the cover of Playboy, like every other month. Like to this day, Pam has the record for most appearances on the cover of Playboy. So like at that point, she was being looked at like she was the next coming of Marilyn Monroe. She was massive. So I think what happened was they were she had done these Cinemax boob fest films, right? And then she was making Baywatch, and she was she had the world at her fingertips, and I think she wanted this. If how long do you have, how big's your window to just really become, I mean, as a man or a woman, but especially as a woman, where you're judged by your appearance, your window of I'm gonna either have my career here or not. She had one moment, and I think she didn't want it to be just I'm being sexy. She wanted to be an action hero. This was her shot to try and do some fighting and try and do some the kinds of things that I think she liked to watch, because if you look at where she goes after, she went from Baywatch to this, to starring in her own show called VIP, which I don't know if you've seen, which is not as gritty as this, but it's a comedy action series which is actually, it's campy, but it's kind of funny. It's not bad. It's
I
for
remember
90s television.
shows like that, and there was stealth about a Dodge Viper or a boat or something, and then like Hulk Hogan had a show, kind of the same thing.
Thunder in Paradise.
There you go.
Thunder in Paradise with Hulk Hogan. Yes.
Yeah. So that same era of just action. Everyone's a bounty hunter. Everyone's a rogue ex FBI, CIA type or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what she's doing, and I think she's trying to. You said she's doing Harrison Ford. Yeah, she's exactly doing Harrison Ford at this. This movie comes out in '96, so she's up against the first Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
We're up against ID4 or Independence Day. It's that year. And then, but like other stuff she's looking at, she's got, I think The Rock comes out in 1996.
Oh yeah.
And then she's up against stuff like Space Jam. Like that's it. Like it's not like the motion picture landscape is not what it is in 2021, and there's not. I think that it's unfair because she's up against a lot of male action heroes. There aren't female action heroes yet. There just aren't. There's now even, it's a big deal where people are like, oh, do we really want to give Black Widow a chance? I'm like, come on, seriously, there's been, yes, she's done $1 billion pictures. Give Black Widow a chance, right?
Yeah.
And Captain Marvel, and you see like the people like, oh, this sucks, it's too woke. You see people doing that with with like any film starring a woman in 2021. This is 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and she's doing her best. And then you know what else came out in 1996? Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is just as good as that.
Yeah.
That might be true.
It's just as good as what Schwarzenegger's doing, except that come on, Schwarzenegger is an okay actor now. He's gotten better since his early days, but he's had a lot of practice. Arnie could not act in those days.
Sure.
He just talked like this and shot at stuff. Like that was was like the whole movie. So I don't think she's actually bad. I think she's struggling because she's got no experience. Like, she was discovered on accident at a football game. She's not a trained actress. She's pretty, and she's doing her best.
I think that's where I was going, is like she's out there on Front Street and has nothing to really help her along.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of like character companionship because she's a lone wolf. And her brother's kind of a waste of space. It's just she's out there way ahead of her skis, and just I felt bad for her because like I could tell she was trying, but there's just not a whole lot to try with in this movie. Like even the bad guy is kind of a joke. So like I don't know. I felt like she would have been better served if somebody pumped the brakes and like got her into like maybe a movie in between straight to Cinemax and this to get her something. But this is like a hell of a task to take on right out the gate, like with barely any experience.
I mean, I think we talked about when we did The Mask. I think she was either in consideration for the Cameron Diaz role or something like that. So
and I know she didn't want to probably do that part because it's just a damsel in distress thing.
Yeah.
And femme fatale wannabe. But I don't know. Maybe something like Madonna's role in Dick Tracy.
I was thinking, I'm just kind of looking at our list, and we just talked about Judge Dredd recently, and I could kind of see her as, his, Hershey, what's her name?
Sandra Bullock. Not Sandra Bullock. That's
Diane,
that's Demolition Day.
Diane Lane. Yeah. So a role like that would have been maybe a good stepping stone, but either way, I don't think she's doing terribly here.
No, I mean, it was doomed to fail. I mean, you were going to get the initial, hey, what's this about? And then it was going to fall off a cliff pretty fast.
And one thing I noticed right off the bat, like this is a movie that starts off with an opening crawl that is narrated. And we've had opening crawls in the past, and we've had opening crawls that are also narrated. And I think there's I think even Judge Dredd did that.
Yeah, they did.
It's just like a mark of quality, I think, when the opening crawl is narrated. Like they don't trust the audience to be able to read. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but then I noticed like a lot of what that information is talking about, she recaps like 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. She almost
the Civil War.
Apparently we're in 2017. There's a second Civil War. I thought this world was going to be a lot more Mad Maxy, a lot more post-apocalyptic, but I mean, it still has clubs, businesses like
and
this,
plenty of water.
Yeah.
It's what realistically would, I mean, if America had been war torn in 2015, like honestly, that's probably realistically about where we would be, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like they're the future for 96, but it's not ridiculous amounts of tech. It's got it's got retinal scans, which we don't use retinal scans, but we do face recognition on our phones now, right? Like it's not that far off of where you could be technology wise. And you've got as far as like you're not in a Mad Max, like, right? You're not racing around just trying to find drinking water, like you said. It's a reasonable look at what a war torn America could look like, and I think it's got that going for it. I think they're trying. I saw one review where people were like, they had to know they were making a bad movie. I don't think so. I think they were trying their best. She's not a trained actress. They didn't have a good screenwriter. They didn't have a lot of money. The budget's $3.5 million. That's not a lot in 1996. It's a shoestring, and it's this is not making an Iron Man or Spider-Man movie. This is Barb Wire. It's a comic book property, but it's not. It was by Dark Horse. It's not one that's like huge. There's not. It doesn't have the money in it to look at. You know what I would compare it to in modern times. Vin Diesel's version of Deadshot, which came out. Not great, and Diesel is Diesel has acting experience, and yet he just still is doing what he wants to do, right? and that's all you've really got. Deadshot, it's Bloodshot, I think it's actually called.
Oh yeah.
Vin Diesel's Vin Diesel. He's very similar acting style as this movie, right? So that makes sense.
Right,
good.
Right. So I don't think she's awful. I don't think she's good, but I don't think she's. No. I don't think she's awful. I think it gets a bad rap in that, and it's fun to make fun of. But but it's a forgettable 90s action movie.
It's forgettable.
It's
not.
Well, except for it's memorable because it's Pam, right?
Sure.
Like if nothing else, you have that 5-minute striptease at the beginning of just somebody.
We also have the bubble bath scene that miraculously stuck to her somehow. I guess bubbles are just tougher in the future.
Yeah.
That must have been so hard to actually shoot that.
Honestly,
because that's just bubble bath stuff. It's just bubble bath material, but they commit to that and not, she obviously doesn't mind being naked. They could have had her naked in the scene.
Yeah.
Someone had artistic vision there. They're like, no, we want the bubbles to frame her. That's like, that was clearly part of the shot. Like someone worked to make that happen. So.
Yeah, it was like a burlesque show all of a sudden.
Yeah. I thought the kind of the opening, this scene, I mean, the reason she's doing this striptease is she's undercover as a dancer at this club, and you find out that it's there's some skeezy going on. The club manager is he's sex trafficking essentially, and so she's undercover. She's going after her shift is over. She's going in into like the freezer or the meat locker to rescue this girl who is being offered to, I guess, one of the customers. So she gets her out of there, and it's
described
kind of
as veal.
Oh yeah, that's
by the manager. That's not creepy at all.
Yeah, it's Frank and Charlie's landlord in It's Always Sunny.
Oh,
really?
Yeah,
I had not recognized. Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a real creepy troll of a man. But
subtlety is not this movie's strong suit.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of a cool rescue scene because she even says like that they get cornered, they get to a window. Barb Wire is she's setting up this like grappling hook, and I think the girl says like, "What are you gonna do?" And Barb Wire says,
Yeah.
"Haven't you ever seen Batman?" And proceeds to grapple them out the window, and the girl is screaming the entire way, and Barb Wire says, "Shut up!" And after as much as Kim Basinger screams in Batman during all that that stuff, like that's kind of nice to hear someone say "shut up."
I don't know. I think if I was her, I'd be screaming too.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. You should be screaming. It would.
Sure.
It would be terrifying, right? Like you're running for your life.
Yeah.
I think that's the fact that she's so matter of fact of it. That's like her hero moment, right? Like she's supposed to be like, no, I do this all the time. What's wrong with you?
And she's definitely a character that would, gradually walk away from an explosion.
Oh yeah. Oh, and she had also
all that.
Threw her heel and embedded it into some lecherous, customer at during her like kind of at the end of her striptease,
Yeah.
Because he called her babe.
Oh yeah. So
that's her character moment. You see?
Yeah. That's gotta get exhausting. I'm sure
man.
that happens quite a bit.
Yeah. She returns the girl to her parents, who I thought this was going to be a darker turn here because I thought the parents were going to be, even worse or something like that. So,
yeah, they did light them in a way.
Yeah. So, but either way, the girls returned with her parents, and she makes off with the money. So now you realize she's kind of a mercenary. I don't know if you'd call this a bounty. Like a bounty hunter type thing.
I thought she was a bounty hunter based on the bail bond stuff.
Yeah, well, that comes a little bit later, yeah. So she's kind of a bounty hunter, mercenary, kind of hero for hire kind of person, She's not going to do anything for free, and as she'll say later, like she doesn't pick sides. She'll kind of work for anybody, so.
In the comics, she is a bounty hunter.
Okay.
So that's I mean, I don't know if you've ever read Barb Wire. It's not so much futuristic or post-apocalyptic as this is. It's just there's a shared universe going on at the time with Ghost, which is a much better comic that I actually really adore. But Barb Wire is in that world, and she's basically a bar owner who does like a little bit of bounty hunting on the side, but again, mostly she goes after people who jump bail and stuff like that. It's not quite as mercenary-ish as this makes it look like, but I think in Hollywood, mercenary and bounty hunter are the same job.
Yeah. And we get introduced to our chief villain of the movie, Colonel Prizer, which this guy, man, they essentially, these people are Nazis. They certainly dress them up as Nazis. The black officer uniform kind of look, but he's like has this Texan accent, which just it felt so wrong the entire movie. Every scene he's in, it felt I don't know, it just felt like the wrong voice coming out of that character. So that bugged me the whole time. But this guy is just. He is unhinged, especially later on in the movie. And it's like this torture scene where they're trying to get information, and this was all a bit confusing, I should say. At the start, you find out that there's this. Well, I thought of them as the Empire, because they're trying to kind of be like. I think they're trying to introduce these bad guys as you would in Star Wars when you meet the Empire for the first time, because they kind of throw you into it, right? You see all the heroes are in, khaki and blue, and then these evil stormtroopers come in, and then Darth Vader comes in. I think that's kind of what they're going for here, just throwing you into the middle of it and then having some exposition tell you we're after this woman because her DNA has something we need, or we can't let her get away with
vaccine.
It. Yeah. But they're kind of like torturing this woman for information, and it's this weird, fetish gear looking thing that they've essentially bra and panty
electrocution device.
Yeah, it's odd.
I wanted to see that same getup on her brother later on.
With the bra.
Yes. Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, it's got to all be working together in tandem for it to be effective.
Right.
I mean, otherwise, why do it? But yeah, I was kind of disappointed we didn't get that with what's his name?
Yeah.
Was it Chris or something? Or
Charlie.
The character's
Charlie. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We're talking
The
to Chris.
actors.
That's
The
right.
actor is Jake. What's his name?
It's something noseworthy.
No, yeah, I think it's Jake Noseworthy.
Yeah.
Or Jack. I don't remember which. But...
Jack. Yeah, I think it's Jack. I remember him from a Bon Jovi music video. Always.
Is it okay?
And that was out like right around this time, like 95, 96, something.
Carrie Russell's in it.
Okay.
Carrie Felicity
okay.
and Watchmen. Carla Gugino.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in that video with him. And yeah, that is him. Okay. Yeah. And also, you should also note, just because we haven't said it, the male lead in this, Axel, is played by Tamura Morrison, TV's Boba Fett.
Yeah, Jango Fett.
Yeah, Jango Fett. Yeah, and now also Boba from the Mandalorian and the upcoming, I guess, still upcoming when this airs probably. But the soon to be released book of Boba Fett. That's Tamura Morrison. He's in this, so you know. It's got that going for it.
Yeah. So yeah, he is with Axel. Yeah, he is with this woman who they call, like, her resistance name is Cora D, which is just her, like, I think her name is Cora Devonshire, something like that. Yes. So and he's leading her to other resistance. They're trying to get to Canada, I guess. So it's kind of like you have like the barbed wire stuff going on, and then they'll cut to their adventure, Axel and Cora. Like they'll kind of keep cutting between the two, and then they little by little you can tell they're converging in the same place, I guess.
And you said you guys have, neither of you guys have seen Casablanca,
right?
Axel and Cora's plot line is just the plot to Casablanca.
Okay,
like it's a direct lift. The substitute, you know, they're not in America, they're in Casablanca, and they're trying to get out of the country. I think they're going to France. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly where they're going, but they're essentially they're trying to get the letters of transit instead of the contacts that they're getting. It's literally just the plot to Casablanca is what Axel. Like that's where I said it's not subtle. It's an homage. It's not like they ripped it off. It's, you know, almost scene for scene what they go through. They gender swapped everybody.
Sure.
So, but it's that scene. It's that film. So if anybody's seen Casablanca, and you should. Casablanca is an amazing movie, but it's just this done well.
Yeah. I like that they, you know, the reason that they have to do certain things is someone is providing them with these contact lenses that once you wear those, that's how you're going to trick the retinal scanners. And this woman has also had like facial reconstruction surgery. So she, the congressionals, the Empire, they don't know what she looks like, but as soon as if they get close and they can retinal scan her, then they'll still know her true identity. So yeah, part of the MacGuffin for a little while are these contact lenses that like one scumbag has, and that's who Barb Wire will get a tip on, like, oh, this guy has something of value, he's on the run, she's going after him, and the way to do that is to pose as a prostitute to get his neighbor to, you know, hire her for her services, just to get her, like, essentially in the same apartment building next, you know, door to her target, essentially. And you know, it's seems like someone with her skills may be able to do all that without having to pose as a sex worker. I don't know. But
no, you say skills, but this part of the movie reminded me a lot of James Bond.
Okay, it does, and it's the scene makes no sense,
Yeah.
but I actually like this scene a lot. It's very clear. Well, no, it's very, very clear that Pam is doing all of her own stunts in that scene. I mean, and if you look up behind the scenes stuff, she trained for months.
Okay.
At kickboxing, she took kickboxing classes. She took firearms classes. She took motorcycle riding classes. She committed to this role.
Yeah.
Like after a couple of days of having the barbed wire tattoo painted on her bicep, she got the tattoo for real.
I was gonna say, she was into it enough to get that tattoo on her. So
and she commits to this, and you can, and she's doing this entire sequence in this ridiculously tight corset and like 4-inch heels, and doing a passable job. I mean, it's what she's being asked to do is ridiculous. Like why it is just attack the guy. He's just a smarmy little guy. Like do you need to pose as a sex worker? No, you could literally just kind of walk up to the guy in the street with a gun and attack him, and it would have been fine. But like they wanted to have this set piece here, and I think, even though it doesn't make sense, I think it's actually visually kind of cool. She blows the hole in the wall and she's crawling around and shooting in an outfit that's way too tight for her to be doing that in. So I think that's one of the better scenes in the film.
I agree. I think this is I really like this kind of the scene turns into a gunfight, because she knocks out her John, the guy that she's there to be with or whatever. She blows a hole in the wall because her target is next door. As soon as that happens, two henchmen who are down in the lobby, they come up to protect their boss, I guess. And so she gets into this gunfight with these two guys, and it is a good, fun action scene, I thought. And you can tell that she's doing all of her own stunts. She's flipping around and kicking these guys and jumping over tables, and there is a really cool visual shot of her. She's got two guns, just the pose that she gets in is just a really cool action pose, with her firing these two guns kind of sideways with one leg kind of stretched out. It's a great poster shot,
Everything she does this entire movie, it couldn't have been comfortable. Because the movie is concerned with making sure she is sexy, not just sexy. Every frame of this film, she needs to look like she belongs on the cover of Playboy.
Sure.
Like she's splayed out and just awkwardly positioned and turned in order to make her look like she's sexy Pam Anderson at all times. And yet she is doing her best to really, really pull off this role, which is, which requires a lot of physicality. Bad as the script may be, I would give credit to much of what she does in order to make the visuals work the way they're working.
Yeah, I think I wrote down, despite the getup, she's still more maneuverable than Batman.
Yeah,
true. Yeah,
Michael Keaton. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. She gets her mark. She gets this guy, throws him over the back of her motorcycle and takes him to Clint Howard, who is he's a bail bondsman, I think.
Yeah.
So she's gonna pay him for bringing this guy in. And is this? I'm trying to remember where do the contacts come into play here? Does she get those or
no? She doesn't know about them yet.
I guess she doesn't get those till later.
She doesn't get them now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. She gets paid for this guy anyways, and then we end up back at her bar, which the Hammerhead bar, and then we were introduced to Xander Berkeley's character, Russell, maybe.
Yeah,
he's playing the dirty cop of the movie, basically.
It's funny because I've seen this so many times, and again, most recently yesterday, and yet. In my head, I still think of everybody in this movie as their Casablanca character.
Okay.
So it was you're like Russell. It's like, no, it's Renault. Oh, no, wait,
okay.
it's Russell.
I just
it's Russell. Yes.
Most of them I know by their actor names, and sometimes I catch what their character names are, but
yeah, it's a lot of people who've been in other stuff.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of I remember you from the 90s.
Yeah, Xander Berkeley will always be Todd from Terminator 2.
Yes.
the stepfather or foster father. Doing a good job here, though. I mean, I actually kind of like him here, and he doesn't play a bad guy the entire movie, but he's still kind of always just, he's got some dirt on him. There was a cool little touch that, because he shows up to the bar to just bust some people trying to fake their identities, I guess. So they come into the bar, his stormtroopers are retinal scanning people and then arresting them. You can tell it's just kind of this shakedown that they kind of do every so often. She'll pay him off to get him out of the bar after he's arrested a few people, just because he's got to still pretend like he's upholding the law. One cool thing I noticed when he and Barb Wire are in her office, she has this like plaque on her wall of I don't know, 7 or 8 different styles of antique barbed wire. Just thought it was kind of cool, like, character touch that she would have this item.
I never noticed that. That's cool. That is cool. Now I'm gonna have to watch this again just to go through and pick out little details like that. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, Willis was the guy's name. I had to look it up while you were talking. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, Berkeley's character's name is Alexander Willis, Chief Willis.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this crooked cop. He had my favorite line in the movie.
Oh.
It was looking rather buoyant when he was talking to Barb Wire. And then it's like a close-up of her chest, and I'm just like, okay, that's solid gold right there. That's perfect.
Nice.
So much of this movie is just, I mean, a lot of it is, it's what, if I were, so I guess I never said, I am a literature scholar, professor, literature and film cultural studies. It's what we call the male gaze. Much of this movie is devoted to, you're supposed to be looking at her the entire time. So Berkeley's character, Willis, is just a lot of his dialogue is just commenting on her appearance.
Yeah.
As if to say, but like not, I mean, yes, it's creepy. He's supposed to be creepy, but but he's not just doing it because the character's creepy. He's talking to the audience. A lot of it is like him literally talking to the audience and saying, ladies and gentlemen, that's Pam Anderson over there. Please acknowledge that she's naked right now.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to see that we got Pam Anderson for our film. And it's just him like really just pointing her out, just so it's like, it's okay for your jaw to open up now. Pam Anderson is on screen. And he just invites you so often to just stare at her. It's weird. And self-aware, like, to me, I think the film knows what it's doing. Like, is it misogynistic? Yeah, in a lot of parts it is. But also, I think it's trying to comment on that. I think it's trying to say, and again, I'm not saying she's great at acting in this, but it's trying to say, you're supposed to look at her and think of her as just this sex symbol that brings nothing else to the table. But while you're watching her and drooling over, we're just going to have her kill everybody. We're going to have her kick complete ass, which is a stereotype now, right? Like we're in 2021, we've got lots of ass kicking women, many of whom are far better written than this.
Sure.
But in 1996, in any other movie, she would just be the damsel in distress tied to some railroad tracks somewhere, waiting for Tom Cruise to swing in and, rescue her, right? She'd be Vicky Vale from Batman. And she's not that. She's trying to do her own thing here. And she's trying to say, I can be sexy and I can still, I can flip around while wearing high heels. I can kick ass. I can shoot people. And there's some stupidness to it because she's got to, even with all of as tough as she is, she's got to impale a guy with her shoe. That's got to be a thing that, because it's kind of goofy and dudish, and somebody say, oh, wouldn't this be cool? She could kill a guy with a high heel. Like, or she could just stab him. She does that a lot. So it's weird, but
she's like a Bond girl, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's
where she could be sexy and lethal at the same time.
we just watched Goldeneye, so there's
Okay.
there's some not direct similarities, but the Xenia Onatopp character is definitely someone who's very, includes her
using it as a weapon.
Yeah, using her sexiness as a weapon. Yeah.
But Xenia is not the lead of that film, right?
No.
Like she's still
No,
a Bond girl.
Sure.
She's not even.
She's a main henchman, I think. In that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, this is.
Yeah.
And again, it's still Pam Anderson, so it's not going to be the greatest acting, but this is still credit to her. She is leading the film. This is her movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie, but it's her movie.
Yeah, right. But like, it's just like in the moment of when it was, like it's also weird to realize, at this point in time, as far as comic book movies have gone, we've had like 6 good ones, right? Like there's been a couple, like ever, right? We've had a couple of Christopher Reeve movies, we've had a couple of Batman movies, and then like Spawn's coming out around now, right? They're not. What year is Spawn? You guys done that one yet? Yeah. So it's okay. So it's coming out.
Yeah.
Like this is not. It's not competing with a lot of big budget pictures, right? Like a lot of like the made for TV Nick Fury is going to be after this, right? Like it's there's a lot of really low budget. The Captain America movie from '91, the Punisher movie, this is the Dolph Lundgren's Punisher movie. That's what she's up against.
Yeah,
and so I think this stands the test of time at least as well as most of those, if not far better than particularly like did you guys do the Captain America movie?
We did,
where he's got the rubber ears and
yes, yeah,
that's garbage.
Yeah.
This is so much better than that. This is so much better than that. This deserves an Oscar compared to that thing.
But we did do another female lead superhero movie in Tank Girl that I enjoyed a heck of a lot better.
See, and
that's an actress doing the role.
Yeah,
Lori Petty. Yeah, Lori Petty had worked before. Yes.
Yeah. But again, a ridiculous movie. But I enjoyed that way better than this.
I think I like this better than Tank Girl because I really didn't care for Tank Girl. I think I gave it a 1.
Tank Girl was fun to me. That was awesome.
Yeah, for me, Tank Girl, because the movie kept switching on whether she was a Bugs Bunny character or a real life character, and it didn't seem to care. But I couldn't see.
I went the Bugs Bunny route and enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the Tank Girl comic is sort of like the Tank Girl comic is absurd in ways that the Barb Wire comic isn't, right?
Yeah.
So part of it is them trying to get the tone of the source material. I think what I like about Tank Girl is doing something different. I've seen the Barb Wire. I mean, not just Casablanca, but I've seen action movies of this ilk a million times. The only difference with this one, between this one and a dozen Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, is that it's Pam Anderson,
right?
Like, and I think that it gets a bad rap because of that. I think it's easy to make fun of her, but what's she up against? Honestly, like I don't, and I have a hard time calling this one really bad. I think it is goofy. I think that because she's female and because so much attention is called to the sexiness of it, like, look, there's Pam's boobs, there's her boobs again, and one more time, look, she's naked, Bubbles this time, there's a lot of that, but but realistically, the plot of this is and the writing of this is stronger than half of Roger Moore's Bond movies. And I like those movies,
right?
Like I grew up watching Roger Moore Bond movies, but a lot of those are real dumb.
Yeah, there's some flimsy stuff there. Yeah, for sure.
They're just awful, and it's it's sex jokes that like a 9-year-old could write, which is why I loved them when I was 9. Right, like that is like that's what I adored Roger Moore. Roger Moore Bond movies when I was a child, and that's how intelligent they are. And this is as good as that. It's better than Spawn. I didn't like Spawn.
Oh man, 14-year-old Travis, loved Spawn. Went to the theater. Went to the theater so many times to see that. So
I'll be curious to see if you think it holds up when you guys watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, the graphic artist in you might die,
Oh
Travis.
man, yeah, the CG in that is so bad.
The devil is what I remember.
Yes, yeah.
There's a lot of just superimposing his head on stuff.
Mhm.
It's
Oh,
really bad.
Yeah.
Last time I watched it, it's and even like I think it's a better movie in some ways, but the first Blade movie is real dated if you actually watch it.
Okay,
yeah.
Now, like there's a lot of what we were. I mean, hell, if you look at like Star Wars movies, those look like they were shot in the 70s.
Sure.
If you don't, and this looks like, the special effects, such that they are in this, are solid. It looks like
Yeah.
an action movie. It's fine.
Yeah, I thought with because they had like a 9 million budget, I thought it looked decent, because they aren't, trying to
generic.
do too much with their visuals. There are really no big massive CG effects or anything. It really is just an action movie. I'd put
it's a lot of warehouses. There's like 5 sets.
Oh
this
yeah,
film.
there's yeah. The what do you
And
call
it's
it?
raining a lot.
Yeah.
Which hides production value.
Mhm.
And it's dark. Yeah, it's dark. But it's dark, but you understand what's going on. There's a lot of fighting in this, and it's choreographed well to where I don't lose my place the way I might in any of the modern movies that do a lot of shaky cam.
Okay.
And like, I mean, I don't want to use John Wick because John Wick's actually really well done. But a movie that I love the Taken movies. I love all 3 of the Taken movies. The first one's good. The other 2 I enjoy, but the camera work in Taken is awful in order to hide the fact that Liam Neeson is 102 years old and can't physically do most of what they did. They just hide it with like this really intentionally shoddy camera work. And this isn't like that. This is well done. It's her. Even in places where it's dark lit and they could have used the stunt double because her face is in shadow, and you could have just put anybody in a wig. It's Pam Anderson.
Yeah.
You can tell. And that adds something to this. And I was a pro wrestler for a while. So credit to the training of what she has to do in order to do that. Credit to her. I gotta give her credit to get in the kind of shape that she needed to get into to make this believable. And again, bad but believable. Like, she's doing her best with it's a $9 million budget, like you said. It's not a great script. It's not but I think it's passable, and I think the film gets a bad rap, and I think your listeners should give it a shot, understanding that they're going to be laughing at it rather than with it a lot. But I think that's okay.
Well,
that's
why
your
I watched
show
it in the first place. Was just for the spectacle of it. Like, it's just weird. It's a weird movie. Like,
it is so weird.
And bad guy's weird. I think Pam was better than the bad guy.
I do
in this
too.
movie.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with that.
Because she's trying. I think some of them, I think some of the actors in here think that they're above this film. They know they're in a movie that's not very good, and they're doing it for the paycheck. She really wants this to work. She commits to this entirely. And like, Ebert didn't hate it.
Right. It didn't sound like it. Yeah.
No, he gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars. He used a 4-star rating when in his thing. So he, if you figure 2 stars is average, 2.5. 2.5 gets you to fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. On Rotten Tomatoes, you have to give something at least a 60%, which oddly enough, for some reason, Rotten Tomatoes lists him as saying that it was rotten, but he didn't. He gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars, which is exactly. I mean, he didn't know this, but it's exactly what you need to do in order to call it fresh. But it's still a mediocre movie. But how many of those do you see on a weekly basis in 2021, right? Like in 2021, I'm trying to think of, probably a lot of your listeners, I imagine, probably loved the Snyder Cut of Justice League. But that's like 4 hours long, and I'm never watching that again. I just don't have that kind of time in my life. Like, I enjoyed it. And I don't, and there's stuff I loved about that movie. There's stuff I didn't like about that movie. I think this is better than that. Or I think it's as good as that. I think this is better than Batman versus Superman, which I hate.
Huh.
I don't like that movie at all.
Okay.
I think this is better than that. So I think it's better than Joss Whedon's cut of Justice League. This is not high cinema. What makes those films work is that, first off, Zack Snyder is a brilliant visual filmmaker. I have qualms with some of his storytelling ability, but he, as far as being a cinematographer, he is amazing. And also, he had $200 million.
Yeah.
They had 9.
Right.
You know, like, that's a big difference. $200 million, you can make things pretty. And like, you can do lots of stuff. If you think about, like, the labor of love that, like, the first Deadpool movie was, right?
Yeah.
And but Deadpool doesn't look good. Deadpool is them doing the best they can with no money.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds working his ass off in order to make that movie work.
And I think
and Ryan Reynolds is a better actor than Pam Anderson is.
Yeah.
So but it's not like she's awful. She does a better job in this movie than I couldn't. I'm not a good actor. So I think I think it's passable.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in that same, general area.
I need to talk about I guess the most comical scene in the movie to me.
Yeah.
And that's the flashback scene.
Okay. Yeah.
Where I just love that they're doing this gritty, like, army scene, and then this guy rolls in. He's like, he's sorry he couldn't make it. Please go on without him. And I'm like, what? Huh? Like, it was just a weird vibe to that whole scene, and just the costuming was ridiculous. And I don't know.
I knew that there was
so weird
a scene, because they kind of set it up that the two of them, Barb and Axel served together.
Yeah.
That's where their
and her
history.
brother. Yeah.
Oh, and their brother. Yeah. So they all served in the army together, basically. And I knew this was coming, this flashback, and I was like, how are they going to make her look like a soldier, I wonder?
Not very well.
Yeah, they get her in the green fatigues, and yet her
mascara is immaculate.
and her hair is still down, and it's just because they're trying to get into a helicopter, and her hair's blowing all over the place. And I thought,
that's not a military cut.
Exactly. Like, surely you'd put her hair up in a tight bun, to keep it controlled or whatever, because it's whipping
inside the helmet.
Yeah. So
and she looked like she was like 12.
I know.
Really, I don't know if it's because the helmet was gigantic.
Probably.
But she looked like a little kid, and it was weird.
Yeah. Well, it's the only time in the movie you see her in, somewhat normal clothes, Yeah. Yeah, because I think she's kind of a petite woman. I don't think she's very tall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's tiny.
Probably 5, I don't know, 3, 5'4", maybe, I don't know, slightly
It's
taller, but not
her
sure.
Front carriage makes it
odd
proportionally, kind of like Dolly Parton.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So they do have that history where he said that he was. They don't really explain why he didn't join them and get out of this area together, but
she's 5'7", at least that's what she lists herself as.
So but she's probably like 5'5", 5'4".
Yeah, she's probably a little shorter given Hollywood work height. But she lists herself at 5'7", 106 pounds, so she's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tom Cruise is like 5'10".
Or something. That's what he says. Tom Cruise is not 5'10".
They measured him with his fancy lifts. That's all.
He's
got like Spice Girl platform shoes.
Yeah. There's an interesting scene where I think it's where Axel comes back to the bar. It might be right after the flashback, and they greet each other. She's still angry with him, tells him to get the hell out of there. But then they get in this elevator, and she starts kissing him. Then they get to whichever floor they're going to in her bar, and Cora is there, and then you find out that Axel and Cora are married. So it's like, why were you just making out in the elevator together? But then Cora says something to the effect that the marriage was just, for
On paper.
For paper, yeah.
Originally,
yeah.
So they are married.
Yeah, so they are legitimately married now. So it's
but
still.
she was wearing bubbles. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's how I took it to be.
Right. Yeah. But there is a good bit of exposition here where Cora kind of lays out why she is the one everyone's after. She lays out a couple of years ago they used Topeka, Kansas as this town, this laboratory, essentially to test this new strain of AIDS on, and they call it the Red Ribbon, and it kills people within 12 hours. And so she was, I guess, the scientist kind of doing that, but not aware that it was going to be weaponized. And so she now has the cure in her DNA. So that's why she's on the run here.
Her blood has the vaccine within it somehow.
Yeah.
I didn't quite, it was, basic action science.
Right. Not sure what the Casablanca equivalent to that is.
Not so much, that's not so sciencey, but the same story. Victor Laszlo is trying. So again, everybody's gender swap. So Ilsa is Rick. Rick is Humphrey Bogart or Pam Anderson. Ilsa Lund is his ex-girlfriend who he got separated with at some point previously in the war when they were supposed to get married, and she didn't show up to wherever they need to be, and now she's hooked up with this guy named Victor Laszlo, who is important to the resistance. So they're trying to get him out of Casablanca because he's needed elsewhere.
Okay.
That's so there's no sciencey part, but it is basically the same story. But but I'm still in love with you, Rick. I'm only married to Victor for the work, and,
right.
But she's clearly got feelings. So it is much the same story,
okay.
But without the science fiction-y bits.
Right on. Fair enough. There's a bit after this where the Congressionals, they show up to the bar, and this time it's Colonel Preiser, it's Xander Berkeley. They show up in force, and they start to trash the. Well, there's a cool scene where Barb tells Axel and Cora, I'm going to go down there and talk to him. You guys come down in a few minutes. And they're like, well, how do we know we can trust you? And she's like, well, you don't. So they come down and they're about to retinal scan them. And you find out that the brother, Charlie, is at the bar, and he's got this little device that basically distorts whatever they're trying to scan, and it just makes it a faulty scan, which that Colonel Preiser's like, yeah, we don't have time for this, let them go. So that's how they escape the bar, which okay.
Which is really dumb in that, like, you're just here to find one specific woman.
Yeah.
And there's a woman, I don't know who you are, but let's go.
We'll let you go.
Let her go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a horrible plan.
Because at this point, I think they're looking for the contacts, the contact lenses, which we know is hidden at the bar. Barb doesn't know that it's hidden at the bar, and a character we haven't really talked about is Udo Kier's Curly. Curly is like he's the bar manager. He's kind of he says he's just a waiter, but you can tell Alfred. He's Barb's number one, essentially running this bar. And
best actor in the movie. I love
him. I
I
really have not liked Udo Kier in much. I basically know him from Blade and Ace Ventura, and never really cared for him. He's very unsettling. But here I really liked him, and I thought he was going to be the villain. Just because.
He's got a villain look about him in general. So
if you put him in the outfit that Preiser is in, that's kind of what I'm expecting every time Preiser's on screen, is like an Udo Kier, because that accent is so just menacing.
Villainous.
Yeah. But there's some they're trashing this bar, right? And really going overboard. They're cutting up the cushions in the seats. They're smashing the glass on the tables, like just literally destroying everything. And there's a few reaction shots from Curly, and you can tell this is his place. Like, he actually cares about the bar. He kind of works with Barb as far as like, I think helping like manage her what bounty hunting like cases she goes on a little bit. He's involved in that, but you can tell like he actually cares more about the bar than all that stuff. So just some really odd, like good reaction shots of from him of these guys like just destroying the place he cares about. So I thought that was just surprising. I didn't expect that, but I liked it.
He takes care of payroll. We find out early.
Yeah.
Where she needs to go on that prostitute job to pay the employees.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. Oh,
sorry. Go.
No, I will say. I was saying. I think I was gonna say it is to me that like they make it very clear that I think she cares about the bar too, because she's only doing the bounty hunting jobs to make ends meet because she's trying to keep the bar afloat. Like she's very specific about that. Yeah. She's like, the bar's not, I can't let the bar go, but she wants to keep it running. So she's taking these dangerous assignments on the side to make sure that, she's got enough money for her and Charlie to live.
Yeah.
I guess, did we ever say Charlie's blind? I guess that wasn't.
No, but okay,
so, yeah. She's got to take care of her brother, and she's got to take care of the bar, which presumably means all the employees. Trying to make sure that she makes payroll. So she's supposed to be that that she's Han Solo, right?
Yeah.
She's that gritty scoundrel, but deep down there's this heart of gold. That's exactly what she's trying to. Yeah. She's trying to get across. I think.
And I like that side of her comes out when she's directly interacting with Curly, because a few moments and then a couple moments later, the two of them together, she actually shows a soft side. It's the only character in the movie that she'll smile with or be playful with a few times. So.
So,
I thought that was
speaking of her brother, did anyone else think that we were going on an adventure to get his eyesight fixed? It gets mentioned that she could fix his eyes with the money for the lenses.
Right, yeah.
So I thought we were going to go that route, especially later when they're, planning to sell the lenses finally. Right. That I guess he uses his spidey sense to find.
Yeah.
And is that what you think? I thought I wasn't sure. I thought maybe he was just. It's not clear why he has them.
Because Schmitz hides it randomly on like a metal shelf.
Yeah,
with a magnet.
I don't know if he was told or what, but he literally just kind of wanders around and he's like there, like it is kind of.
I think it's a Daredevil kind of thing where, because
sonar
Schmidt, Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard. He comes into the bar. He's trying to give the lenses or sell the lenses to Barb. She doesn't want them. She doesn't want to be involved with this, part of the plot. But
she doesn't buy or sell. Is what she says.
Yeah, that's right.
But she's a bounty hunter and owns a bar.
But he decides, well, I'm going to hide these in the bar. He goes in the kitchen and I think hides them underneath the countertop. And then it like pulls out and reveals that Charlie is nearby. I think it's meant to suggest that he can hear what he attached. So he knows that like he magnetically attached the contacts underneath a metal surface, So I think that Charlie then goes in and probably feels around for a bit and finds them. So I think that's what
he knows. He knows the bar well enough to know. He knows his way. It's his sister's bar, so you're saying he knows his way around. He knows vaguely. So he's able to find it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, they don't sell
that's
it
never
very
been clear
well.
to me.
No. Yeah. Because he just later has them. So,
Yeah. Well, I think it establishes he at least has the power to smell perfume.
Okay.
When he is talking to that girl, but then he also doesn't realize that girl's walked away at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the extent of his I guess Daredevil power.
It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Well, he also, he's blind because he caught some shrapnel from a grenade, which makes sense given that in 1990s technology. But when they try to use the retinal scanner on him, she's like, he doesn't have retinas, you idiot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, That's not how blindness works. That's not how grenades
flash grenade.
Yeah,
because
like he does have scars over his eye. Like it definitely went off in his face. So
yeah.
Like I took it as like it seared his eyeballs, like it cooked him almost.
I guess
like a phosphorus kind of grenade or something. But yeah, still you wouldn't.
Still not how retina scans work.
Yeah.
We do have them.
Yeah.
You could do that. Which plot point in Captain America? Civil War, I think, or not Civil War. It's in Winter Soldier. It's in Winter Soldier, isn't it? When Nick Fury goes and he scans he uses his dead eye because it still works. Yeah. You do still have retinas. It's just you don't have sight. It's a difference.
We didn't really
those
talk
grenades target the retina only.
Yeah.
Very
he
specific.
Did call it a smart
at the time.
He did call it a smart grenade.
It's a smart grenade.
Yeah.
It followed him. That's right.
Sucks your retina out.
Yeah. We hadn't really talked about the Resistance folks that we meet.
Well, you meet them for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So
Cora and Axel meet up with them at some point. It's a ragtag group, but then we find out that Charlie, the brother, is part of the Resistance. So he goes to meet up with these people and finds that they're all dead. And of course, the villain Prizer's there. And they start to torture Charlie, which I thought was a really cool scene because they do they do the same thing where they're attaching the electrode thing to him to see his last thoughts, to get that information. And when he dies, or when they they turn up the power and leave it on him because he's not giving anything up, it's just really visually a cool shot because he's kind of in silhouette, just lighting wise, but his body is smoking and he's just laughing kind of in his final moments. And it's just, I thought, a really, really well done shot that I wasn't expecting.
Mm-hmm. See, well, I guess first of all, the guy that's doing the interrogating is a moron.
Yeah.
How are you going to get visual data from a blind guy?
Yeah.
Which they do admit to, but seriously, couldn't figure that out,
half
hour earlier.
But they do say, we'll get whatever his last visual or some of his visual information, we'll get some of that or something.
Which was 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I
forget what they get from it, if anything.
They don't get anything.
Okay. I couldn't remember if
they're
got
just
something.
basically turned to old school torture with pain.
Yeah.
And then they have a face-off moment where you have overacting and screaming going on like Nick Cage and Travolta.
Sure.
And it's just who can, laugh and cackle the most for 5 seconds about Santa Claus, which is a horrible joke. I hated everything about that scene.
Okay.
I get where you're coming from visually maybe, but I was just like, Nick Cage does this better. I don't want to watch this.
Nick Cage does everything better.
Yeah. I mean, it was so over the top. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was I was with it for a second, but then it just kept going, and I was like, nope, I'm out. Too much.
I think at this point, I think Barb is talking to Curly. I think he's sweeping up the bar. They're just kind of trying to put the pieces back together. And I think Curly says something that Charlie went to go talk to Spike, and Spike is the leader of the Resistance. And then that freaks Barb out. She realizes, okay, Charlie is going to the Resistance.
That was horrible camera work. It was just pan to her face, dun dun dun.
Yeah.
It was just bad.
There's this actually has that scene, and there's a few other times even early. But one thing that this movie does that's weird is, even though it's a theatrical release, it's like they know it's going to play on television at some point, which it can't because there's clear nudity. But there's very obvious spots for commercial breaks.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
In this film, there's places where it's just fade to black and then refade back in on a different scene. Rather than just dissolving from one scene to another, it's we're going to black because there's a clear break where we want you to, go use the bathroom or advertise eggs to you or something, right? There's clear spots, and then that's one of them where it's just where's Charlie? and then and then she has her like sort of her hero look off into the distance, like, oh no, because she knows something's wrong.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, so she shows up at the, generic warehouse where she knows Spike and the Resistance would be, and kind of like just finds, dead bodies. Eventually sees her brother kind of strung up on the upper level, and then just it's a weird transition, because then Axel and Cora also just show up, and it felt like it was just a jump cut. Like suddenly we're with them now, but they're also arriving at this place, and they find all the dead Resistance. They find Barb with her brother, and then it's kind of the I guess kicks off the third act here. I mean, it's definitely the all hope is lost kind of thing. Has Barb gone to visit Fatso, Big Fatso at this point?
I think so.
Like they've had one meeting.
Planning to leave because they're
right, because she doesn't know Charlie's dead when she goes to visit.
Right.
So she visits Fatso she doesn't actually want to help at first. She's going to sell the contacts to Fatso to make enough money for her and her brother to skip town.
That's right.
And then while she's off selling while she's off brokering the deal, that's when Charlie left to go tell, like, he leaves because he's going to go tell Spike. Spike is the leader of the Resistance locally, who I guess is implied to friends with Charlie, if not her if not girlfriend. Sure. They clearly, even though they have no scenes together while they're alive, it's implied that they care about each other on some level. So he's going off to tell Charlie that, oh, we've got the contacts, we've got to stop my sister, I guess. But then Charlie's dead, and then he's like, that's when he goes into the whole, no, I'm not talking, you'll have to kill me. And that's right, yeah. So definitely she's been to Fatso by now, because this is how she finds out that, I guess, I won't be skipping town with her.
Right. So then we get a kind of a cool, almost a montage, kind of Barb gearing up for battle. She's supposed to
generic.
Yeah. At this point, she's supposed to now meet up with Big Fatso, and he's this, big guy who gets carted around on a like a front loader, like a bulldozer type thing that just carries him around because he's so massive. He's Jabba the Hutt.
Fatso.
But he runs this gang out of a junkyard. So she's going there to meet up with him. He's going to provide provide escort to get her, originally her and her brother, to the airport. Now it's going to be her and Cora and Axel. So they all go after she gears up in this big battle van, I guess, that she has in storage. So she's fully loaded, looking like if Cable from the X-Men comics, generally just loaded up with guns and bandoliers and all kinds of weaponry.
She's in full 1990s Liefeldian action gear.
Yeah.
That's what she's wearing.
And here's where everyone kind of converges on their meetup spot. Barb and the other two meet up with Fatso. Then you find out there's a double cross kind of situation, and the Congressionals show up. And here's where Xander Berkeley he goes to cuff Barb and then puts a grenade in her hand because he's at least sympathetic to
Worst
her.
acting in the movie coming up.
Oh, okay.
She's got a grenade.
Yeah. Yeah. He does say that, I'm sorry about Charlie. He didn't want her brother to have been killed. So that's kind of, I think, what pushes him over to the quote-unquote good side and helps her out here.
Well, he was nice to Charlie before that, too, when they were trying to scan his retinas. And I don't think he gets along with everyone.
Yeah.
City, Steel City, or whatever the hell it's called.
Steel Harbor, yeah.
Steel Harbor, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steel City's Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I got confused.
So then it just turns into gun battle. Everyone kind of now I guess it's Barb and Axel and Cora and I know you said his name. I just keep thinking of him as Xander Berkeley.
Willis.
Willis. Okay. I keep wanting to say Russell.
Just think, what do you talk about, Willis?
Okay. Yeah. So it's the four of them in the battle van. I guess I should say the grenade that she tosses up in the air lands on Big Fatso and just blows him up. So that's kind of fun.
That was very Looney Tunes moment if you wanted one.
Yeah.
He's like, whoa.
Yeah. Nice reaction shot from him. And then it turns into an all-out, gun battle, chase, just vehicle mayhem, and this, they're definitely getting their use out of this, like oil refinery / port of Los Angeles type seaside
Reminded
port.
me of the end of RoboCop.
Yeah, just generic factory type situation
Industrial,
where they can, they can drive around, they can have explosions going off, gun battles, that sort of thing.
Did anyone else feel bad for the crane operator? It's like being helpful and then just gets elbowed.
Yeah.
So
in a weird little comedy sequence, I guess, right? Because it's like
it's weird.
Like Axel comes in and he's like, "Hey, random, can I do that in real life? Can I just go into a construction crane and be like, how's this work?
Yeah.
And will they just tell me? Because that's what happens."
Yeah, he was very helpful.
Yeah.
Jeez. But did anyone else? I don't know why during this action sequence I noticed it, and maybe it's throughout, but it sounded like they were using like copyright-free music. It was just super generic, straight-to-video action music.
I didn't notice it.
I don't know why I noticed it there, but
yeah,
it was just very, like it was just super generic.
Huh.
Like I think like freaking A-Team had better music on their TV show, but it was. I always said A-Team because of the van, but,
right?
I don't know. It just
curious who scored it.
I did notice here. I know we talked about she did her own stunts and stuff, and did motorcycle training. Here it's like it's very obvious that she's not doing the motorcycle stunts in this section because every
helmet entire time.
Yeah, they definitely make a point to put on the helmet with this super dark visor to conceal the identity of whoever the stunt rider is. So I did notice
despite the fact that she doesn't wear a helmet any other time in the like she rides around without a helmet for much of this movie because they train Pam Anderson to do motorcycle riding for it. So she definitely does some stunt riding, but not in this scene. And I'm wondering if maybe it was filmed. So you mentioned that she was married to Tommy Lee at this point. Tragically, she has a miscarriage while making this movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and she not knowing she's pregnant is an early miscarriage. She doesn't know she's pregnant, and then she goes to the hospital, has a miscarriage. Takes they shut down production. She only takes 4 days off.
Oh wow.
And then she comes back to work. So I wonder if this was filmed after that, maybe. Because she doesn't wear, typically when she's riding around without a, so that you can see it's her.
Yeah.
And then in this one fight, she's like, "Let me put on my helmet because safety first, kids." And it really is clearly someone else in a wig.
Yeah. I
Well,
imagine it's
it's
just
also a little more hardcore motorcycle riding. So
more high speed. They're doing a lot more going
the
around.
stunt person almost bites it in one part.
Yeah.
Where it gets all squirrely on him. So
it's a decent enough action scene. I mean, I think we've had similar, if not on the same level, in some of the RoboCop movies we've watched, and Judge Dredd and just stuff like that. So it's on par with that stuff, I think. I do like the way it kind of ends here. You've got Colonel Prizer is chasing down Barb, who's on the motorcycle, and then you've got Axel kind of having a fight with a henchman on this construction crane. And so eventually Prizer is coming after Barb with a big heavy-duty forklift, and so they're having their own little action standoff there. And then the crane action kicks in, and Axel's able to get control of the crane, and then lifts up the forklift that Barb and Prizer are fighting on, and kind of elevates the action there. And I thought just a fun, kind of an original use of having them fighting on this forklift that's being lifted and moved all over the place. And I thought that was pretty well done. What is Preiser says something about, this reminds me of my favorite song.
Oh, I've got you, babe.
I got you, babe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course,
So
calling
bad.
back the "Don't call me babe" as she drops him from this great height.
Well, that's the tagline of the movie.
Yeah.
So
Actually, I
gotta get it in
noticed
there.
in the trailer that we posted the previous episode that basically the trailer is kind of one long music video with this song called "Don't Call Me Babe." And it's actually a really good song. I was hoping to hear it in the
Really?
movie. They play it for just a snippet of it at one point when she's off riding her motorcycle. But you don't get the lyrics at that point. But it's actually a really kind of fun listen. So I don't know who it's by or anybody.
So yeah, we get the classic 80s, 90s villain falling from a great height ending.
Yeah.
So again, rather generic
Yeah.
action trope.
You've seen Die Hard. We're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. but on a cable with a car, motorcycle, and forklift. I
Yeah.
don't know what the hell was going on. It's a jumble of vehicles. Yeah, it was. That was the biggest phony looking piece of the green screening of that.
I noticed
So-
at one point that they had a dummy in place of Preiser. Like as it's falling, you can see the
yeah.
very stiff figure kind of
Nice.
leaning back. So
Cool.
yeah, but that's all right. Then it kind of cuts to they're at this point, Willis and Cora have gone ahead to the airport, and then it's Axel and Barb. They're waiting for Axel and Barb to arrive, and it's kind of moment of truth. How are they going to get Cora through this retinal scan, and then bum bum bum, you find out that Barb Wire has been wearing the contacts. That's how she did the whole switcheroo earlier at some point, and has been wearing the contacts and then takes them out and gives them to Cora so that she can get through the retinal scan. And it's, I wish they hadn't made them this bright blue.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got glowing bright blue eyes, which Barb does not have.
Yeah.
So why does that happen?
Right. Yeah. So
Choices.
that's odd. But yeah, then I guess everything.
Yeah, at least they didn't have the contacts in her cleavage.
Oh yeah.
But they'll make up for that with the gold card later. So.
Oh yeah, that's kind of where it ends. I mean, Axel and Cora get on a plane. Barb talks to Willis about like what her plans are. She's gonna possibly go check out. Does she say Paris or France? Maybe.
Yeah, I heard Paris.
Okay. Yeah. So that's still her plan is to go to Europe, just kind of maybe start fresh, I guess, and I forget what cheesy line. Kind of again calling back to what you were saying earlier about like Xander Berkeley's one job in this is to point out, hey, it's Pam Anderson, right?
Yeah. He's like, I think I'm in love with you, and she says, "Get in line" or something like that. It makes. There's no reason. There's nothing that is implied that they're in love ever before. It's just like you said. He's got to point out she's hot.
Yeah.
We're ending the movie. This is the last time to look at her. Look how skinny her waist is and her corset that she runs around in.
Right.
Yeah, not the best rating.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's Casablanca. I mean,
yeah. Well, and the end scene is the if you you guys have not seen it, but this is the scene that in the original Casablanca is like, this looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Right.
It's shot a lot like this. There's no "I'm in love with you," but that's what that's from. It's them walking off into the sunset together on at the airport. In the middle of the clouds because it's the airport, but really it's clearly a soundstage. Because history for Casablanca, the original Casablanca, the movie, was mostly shot before the United States actually enters World War II.
Right.
It's very much dealing with Nazis, which is why
Yeah.
it's very stormtroopery. But like America is officially neutral for most of the production of Casablanca. They wrap, and then between the time that they wrap and when they were scheduled to do what were supposed to be very short reshoots, Pearl Harbor happens and America enters the war.
Yeah.
so they're like, oh, we're at war now. So the very end of Casablanca, they basically tack on a scene in order to make it more patriotic, because the original, it was supposed to end with him being neutral still, but then they have to change it to where he's now going to go off to help in the war effort, and he's going to France. So that's all added after the fact in reshoots for the original Casablanca, and it's part of what makes the movie famous, is this stuff that was just an afterthought to deal with like real life. And so now they're copying that afterthought for this movie, and because they've got to, in order to make it match Casablanca, they've got to do this scene. And so then they apparently Willis and Barb, or I don't think she loves him, but like he at least loves her now in a way that makes no real sense, but it's fine. it's like look, we've got to get you some credits here. You've been watching for this for 95 minutes now. Like it's a short movie. It's not very long.
No, yeah.
It's 140 minutes total, and the last 5 minutes are credits. So it's 95 minutes of something. And again, a lot of it, I mean, 4 solid minutes of her stripping at the very beginning, plus lots of her running around naked in other scenes, so.
Yeah, I think that's the version I got on Amazon. Because it was a long opening sequence.
Yeah, I think the cut version, I think the theatrical cut version is still like 2 minutes. I mean, it's like, I haven't watched that. Like now everybody gets the full thing, but it's an uncomfortably long amount of her stripping, because I mean, weirdly enough, because she doesn't really strip, right? Like she starts the scene in this vinyl dress that's falling off of her, like you said nip slips, but it's a lot of, basically her top's open, so you frequently see her nipples, but she never actually removes the dress. So she mostly just squirms around, and it's sexy for 30 seconds, but it goes on for 4 minutes. and it's uncomfortably long, with lots of whistling at her and hollering at her, because they want to get through the whole song.
I mean, at one point she's like pulling her dress back on, like it's
in order to fill up the 4 minutes. It's like, weird.
It's gonna reset.
Weird. So anywho, but Barb Wire.
Barb Wire, everybody. Mav, we always do our little segment here, what we feel is the most heroic and most villainous moments in the movie. So let's start with most heroic.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I just finally know what I have to do.
That keeps us honest.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Gives us strength.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
Makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
I got mine already. So
okay.
I'm ready for this.
Go for it.
Most heroic goes to her dog and the crotch check sequence.
Okay.
That was epic. I loved every bit of it. She saved everybody in the bar from getting harassed by a weird drunk biker guy.
Yeah.
And basically saved the day. And that was like the best. Like the dog just comes in, very heroic, and does the job that needs to be done.
What's the dog?
That was like the
Camille?
coolest heroic part to me.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Mav, how about you? Got anything?
Yeah, I guess most heroic. I mean, there's like, from a character beat, I guess most heroic is the ending where she's, I'm a good guy after all. But like, as far as visually, and I already talked about it, I love the fight scene during the hooker job. Like when she knocks out the guy, and then she puts, I guess, not C4. I guess it's supposed to be like plastic explosive.
Yeah.
It's not really clear. It's Batman foam from Arkham from
Oh,
the
yeah.
Arkham Asylum games. Like she sprays some foam on the wall and then puts a charge in it. And then she does this really clever thing. It's a really smart move because she can't, she's not an actual superhero. So in order to protect herself, she puts the bomb foam on the wall. Then she puts a mattress in front of that, and then she knocks over a table. Like she provides herself cover
Yeah.
for shrapnel from an explosive. It's actually extremely realistic. And then she does what I think is actually a really brilliantly choreographed scene for a woman in her underwear and 4-inch heels.
Right.
It's an impressive visual filmmaking for what it is in a scene that frankly is better than this movie.
I was in pain watching her.
Oh,
Like the fact that she's got like that leather thongy
Corset.
onesie thing on.
yeah.
Mhm.
I'm like, that doesn't have a whole lot of give. That has to hurt.
And that is a
So bad.
narrow-waisted corset. I mean,
17 inches,
Okay.
yeah, which I'm again, just little details of things that I know from years of study.
Yeah.
It's a 17-inch corset, which for those who know, if you don't know anything about how corsetry works or how waist work, that's tiny. If you think about like the classic model measurements of 36, 24, 36, right?
Yeah.
24 would be a tiny waisted, professional model, professional sexy woman.
Sure.
This is 7 inches of circumference tighter than that. It's tiny.
God.
It's tiny and uncomfortably tight, and she wears it for much of this movie.
Yeah, I don't know how she didn't break a rib.
Yeah. I wonder if
Yeah.
they have like a stunt corset, maybe that isn't that tiny and you don't notice it because it's in movement and action scenes, but then any of just the walking and talking, maybe those are the tighter waist.
Yeah, I don't know. She's mentioned in interviews that it is that she chose to do it. She wanted to be sexy for the role, but she mentions how uncomfortable a lot of it was.
Yeah.
Like just and again, there's no such thing as stunt heels, right? She's just wearing 4-inch spikes in order to walk around for this entire film. It's impressive.
Yeah,
It really
sure.
is. It really is, for given how much crap she takes for it. It's an impressive physical role for someone with no real experience in this. I mean, she's been doing Baywatch for a couple of years when this starts. She's on Baywatch from I think 92 to 97. So, and she shot this in 95 for 96 release. So she's had 3 years of basically swimming and running in slow motion as her action experience.
Yeah.
And before that she'd been on Home Improvement, right? Like, so it's not something that she's really trained to do. She just trained for this film, and I think that deserves some credit.
Sure. Yeah, she definitely puts in the work. I mean, you can tell, just especially in the, I don't know, easily first half of the movie, it's definitely her doing most of the stunts. So that's impressive. I think my hero moment, I would probably give it to that opening sequence, not the striptease, but the doing that to save this girl who's I guess a victim of sex trafficking. So getting her out of that complex and reunited with her parents, even though that feels like maybe that wasn't the best choice, but maybe it's fine. But just that act of saving her. I'd give a runner-up to Charlie with withholding information during the torture. So I thought that was pretty good. But how about most villainous?
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me. You were made to be ruled. The universe is power. You unstoppable power. Come to me, son of Jor-El. Kneel before Zod. And I am that force. I am that power. In the end, you will always kneel. Kneel before your master.
Everybody here sucks, right? So it's I mean like it's I don't mean that like as a negative. I mean like everyone's morally questionable at best, and if they're not just a straight up Nazi, which is what the bad guys are. So Pryor is just evil throughout the entire film.
I find that with a lot of these post-apocalyptic or futuristic kind of movies, everyone is either shade of gray or evil. No one's a good guy. But I think my most villainous is that Charlie torture scene. Because they're not gonna get any information from him, but he keeps torturing him. So.
Yeah, it's probably
Nothing too inspiring. It's pretty generic bad guy stuff, but I will say I enjoyed the henchman that shot up the bail bonds place. It was like, they resisted, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That was just such a like, even amongst the bad guys, that guy was just slimier than them.
Yeah, because you can tell like it's kind of standard operating procedure to walk in, just shoot the place up, but it just so happens that in this case they did want to question some of these guys.
It just made me laugh, and it was just so horrible.
Yeah.
Plus, that actor was like just looking at the main guy, waiting for his cue. Like you could tell he was just like eyeing him, like, okay, I'm waiting for it now.
For me, it's probably killing Charlie as well. I mean, it's just because so much of it happens just because there's no good reason for it other than we are evil. We are going to just hurt you like that. Like they, at this point, when they decide they're going to kill him, it's just to be bad. And so, which gets across the idea that, they're evil, I guess, if just being Nazis wasn't enough, hey kids, if you're not paying attention, these are the bad guys here.
Yeah. Uninspired bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's rate this thing. Mav, we do, out of 5, whatever you feel, and if you want to expand on that and talk about it. I mean,
yeah, okay. So I have
It's a 4 out of 5. Come
on. No.
I
mean, I should maybe I'll send you guys the link. I wrote on my blog years ago that I for whenever I do movie ratings, I wrote essentially my manifesto for how, on a 5-star rating, how do I pick my ratings? So I've got a system that I just tend to use each time, and I don't want to just. Can you edit me a second while I pull up my notes, because I didn't have that ready. Hold on a second.
Yeah, we can, if you're okay with that, we can share that in the
show
notes or in the Facebook group or whatever.
Yeah, let me just get the link real quick.
I'll go ahead and say that I'm at a 2 with this one. I was somewhere between a 1.5 and a 2, but looking back and after thinking about it and talking about it, and I looked back at my Tank Girl score, and I gave that a 1.5, and I do enjoy this more than that. I think a 2 is where I'm at. As an action movie, I thought it was kind of fun. Like I said, with her performance, I thought she does the gruff, kind of, what do you call it, stoic performance that I've recently watched the first 3 Rambo films, and especially in like 2 and 3.
Yes.
He's not chatty, he's not talking to anybody, and I think she does as good of that kind of performance here that Stallone is doing as Rambo in those second 2. And the stunts I thought were pretty decent, good gunplay. Overall, I'm glad I watched it now. I was not looking forward to it just based on memory and reputation, but it's totally worth watching for me. Watching once, I probably won't revisit this one, but not upset that I watched it. So
I've watched this several times, but again, it
for a reason.
It's part of my job, right? Like it's literally like this. So I wrote this thing that I gave you guys for my a blog that I wrote years ago about how how I wrote it in 2017 because people kept asking me I would review a lot of superhero movies because people were expecting them from me, and they're like, well, how come you give all these 2.5 and 3-star ratings? And they're like, clearly Wonder Woman or Batman or whatever, like they would name their favorite movie, and they'd be like, clearly this is a 5-star movie. If you're always giving 3s, what do you give a 5-star to? And I was like, 5-star? Godfather, Citizen Kane, those are 5-star movies.
Right.
and they're like, well, why do you give everything 2.5 or 3 stars? And I'm like, well, there's really a lot of 2.5-star movies.
Sure.
It's just, if there's a lot of movies. I'm not just watching superhero movies, and most of them are relatively average. I think there are really good superhero movies, and in fact, on my range, I gave Logan 4 stars.
Okay.
Because I think Logan is I think a 4-star movie is Oscar caliber, but not necessarily the greatest movie of all time. And I think Logan really, Patrick Stewart should have been at least nominated for best supporting actor for that film. I think it's a remarkable thing. 2.5 I think is exactly average. I think that's an exactly average movie, whereas I'd say 2 stars is, and here's what I wrote about 2-star movies, which is exactly where I put this. 2 stars is technically thumbs down. This is not a good movie. It really isn't. If you like it, great, but it's not actually good. If you're into the genre, which I am, action heroes, and you see everything, then go. For everyone else, don't waste your money. And I think it's not worth wasting money on. But in an era where we have streaming and where you can just kind of, if you have to spend like $1.99 rental, this is a good evening for a $1.99 rental. This is not a $10 movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for $1.99, or for if you see the DVD and you can own it for, like, if you go to Walmart and they have like the $3.99 bin, it's worth that for what it is. And in this category, I put Man of Steel, which I also don't like. I don't like the Man of Steel movie. Though, again, I get why people do like the Man of Steel movie. I put every live action Transformers movie as a 2-star movie.
Okay.
Except Bumblebee, which came out after I wrote this. Bumblebee, I actually think is a good 3-star movie, but all the other Transformers movies are not good. But if you're into Transformers movies, then you're just into them, right? Like, if you're into this, you're into it. All the 50 Shades of Grey movies, different crowd, but they're exactly this. And Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch, which is an awful movie that I adore. I love Sucker Punch. I think it's brilliant, but I recognize the flaws of it, and I think this is as good as Sucker Punch.
Okay.
So if you liked Sucker Punch, okay, watch this. And if you like this, give Sucker Punch a shot, because I think Sucker Punch is really, really beautiful for a movie that makes no sense and is not very good. I very much enjoy it. So I think this is enjoyable, but it's a 2-star movie out of 5.
Gotcha.
Right on.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I'm going, and usually I try to look at these in the scope of the movies we're watching, which are all the superhero movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you're not getting the Citizen Kane
no,
right,
as a 5-star here. But there's just nothing about this movie I'll remember. Like, I'll eventually forget the 5-minute striptease and just think it was something I saw on Skinamax back in the 90s in, like, the recesses of my brain that's gradually becoming less and less capable of retaining knowledge. It's so generic, aside from the fact that there's a lead woman, but even that isn't enough for me, because I almost felt like I was watching her in a different movie than the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
I felt like Axel was like a straight-to-video action hero.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, she was taking things seriously where I think she could have taken it a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, like I think everyone else was taking a specific scene. But, like, some of her lines were just weird. Like, I think they were written to be kind of goofy, but she made them super serious.
Mm-hmm.
Again, she's in that, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of vibe where she doesn't... It's almost like English isn't her first language. And she can't read context.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know, there's just bits and pieces where it's like people are playing it up, but then she's just being super serious about it. Like she says, like, damn it a lot. Like, at least 5 times she says just the word damn it, like when she broke a nail, or, she's like in an action sequence where a guy says something, and she's like, "Damn it!" And like, I don't know why she's saying it like that.
Well, I noticed
Like,
that she delivers almost every line through gritted teeth. You know.
Yeah, that's where I got the Harrison Ford thing.
Okay.
Like, it was like a mumbly kind of. I don't know. It was like trying. Like, if somebody told me to be gritty, I'd do a Harrison Ford impression.
Okay.
And that's what she's doing. Like, she's trying, but I don't think the direction she's getting is very good. And I don't know, like, this movie was just all over the place to me. Like, the villain was like kind of menacing in the beginning, but then he turns into like a raving lunatic at the end.
Yeah.
Where he's besmirching a great American classic like "I Got You, Babe." That horrible line. I don't know. It's like it was trying to be The Crow.
Yeah.
And I only say that because of the dark, wet environment, but at the same time it's almost turning into a Batman TV series episode.
Mm-hmm.
With the like over the topness and caricature of the villain. I don't know. Like, there's nothing I would want to rewatch on this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I put that at like a 1.5. Like, it's basic is how I would put this. Like, it's just very, like, if you made a For Dummies action book movie, this is what that is. It's just, you know, do this, done.
Right.
And it just has Pam Anderson's cleavage the rest of the way. Like, trying to carry it.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it's got a gimmick and it goes with it, I guess. I'll give it that, but it's just, meh. I don't know. I'm on Debbie Downer on this one. I was just over it. Like, this could have been a half-hour episode and I'd been done.
What was your official rating? I don't know.
1.5.
Okay.
It's just there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of movies that are like that. Like, the 90s are just loaded with crappy action movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're in a vein of, you know, 93 to 90, you know, I think in 97 things are going to turn around for us, but yeah, the hits are few
Dolph
and far between.
Lundgren, Jean-Claude,
yeah,
Steven Seagal. I'm putting her in that area.
Oh, okay. See, I think she's so much better than most of Seagal's work. I've seen a lot of Seagal movies, and I think Seagal did.
He's a
one
guy
movie.
that doesn't know what movie he's in.
No,
so that's why I put him in.
No, I think Under Siege works because of just like, you know, like literally all the stars aligned to make Under Siege work, and like every other film, Steven Seagal is the one person who doesn't know that he's in a bad movie, and everyone else in the cast does. And I think Pam is better than that here. Like, I think she's trying her best. I think she's got more talent. I think this holds together much better than, God, I cannot remember the names of, you know, Hard to Kill or whatever.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. It's like the not blockbuster ones, the straight to video versions of those.
Yeah, these
actors.
Miscellaneous Seagal films that like are all the same.
Couldn't remember.
Yeah. Steven Seagal is Hard to Kill. Steven Seagal is Out for Justice. Or I bet you those are actual titles. I did that from like I made those up, and I bet you they're the actual titles to Steven Seagal films.
Probably. It's like, I don't know. Everything Seagal does looks like it's in slow motion. So
yeah,
I think all his movies look that way.
Oh God! If you look at him fight today, where he can barely move, so people just kind of fall down around him and pretend that he's done it. It's really
like
bad.
A 2-minute roundhouse kick.
Oh no! It's a lot of him. It's a lot of him grabbing a guy's hand like he's gonna shake his hand, and the guy just has to backflip because Steven hasn't moved. It's just the guys are like, oh, I guess
it's his force judo.
Of it's really bad. It's really bad. YouTube it.
Yeah, I kind of lump it in with all those like horrible action movies like Seagal had, and like I don't know. It's just generic.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's a 1.83 repeating, which is the same thing we gave Tank Girl, and
travesty.
Yeah, so I think that's about where it needs to be.
I cannot, in good conscience, say that this is the same as Tank Girl.
Well, the numbers don't lie, Patrick.
Dirty, rotten numbers. I never liked math. And this is why.
Yeah.
I knew it would come. This is the prime example of numbers failing you.
Well, Mav, why don't you tell? We didn't even really mention at the top what podcast you're from, but here, why don't you tell our listeners, where they can find you and what your show is all about?
I've got two shows. I've got so my first show that's been going for, as of recording, 189 episodes we've done, but probably by the time this airs, maybe a couple more. I have a weekly show called Vox Popcast, VOXPOPCAST, because when we named the show, we thought having a clever pun in the title would be smart and not just cause no one to be able to spell the show. But Vox Popcast is what we call a weekly pseudo-academic roundtable of pop culture analysis with drinking and swearing. So me and my nerdy academic friends, we get together, and every week we will discuss a movie or TV show or a pop culture concept. Travis, you were on the episode we did Watchmen, I believe, the Watchmen TV series, and also a little bit of the movie, but mostly we were talking about the TV series back then. But sometimes we're all over the place, so it's always something to do with pop culture. We just this week's episode is The Eternals, which is coming out, and then next week we're doing Dune, and then sometimes we're just completely far away from that. So we've got an episode coming up where we're just talking about the concept of sexy TV, not like this. Think everything on the CW.
Sure.
So like shows where it's like where, and for good or for bad, but shows where everybody is hot and sexy, whether it's Beverly Hills 90210 show or whether it's Arrow, right? Like like that's just part of the vibe of the show. So
everyone has abs.
Yeah. Oh yes, everyone has abs. Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna do a show. We'll talk about Christmas movies again this year. We do a Christmas show every year, so that kind of thing. And we enjoy talking about movies and comics, and then sometimes it's completely off the wall. One of my favorite episodes ever is we just talk about American Girl dolls for an hour. Like because I knew nothing about them, but I've got three women who are co-hosts of mine, and they all grew up with these. I didn't. So to me, that was fascinating, just learning the crazy amount of history and fan culture that goes into these American Girl dolls, which, if you don't know anything about them, is as in-depth and ornate as all the stuff that we do with comic books, right?
Okay.
So that's that. And then I have another show called Oh Gosh, Oh Golly, Oh Wow, which is the comic book Excalibur, from the 1990s X-Men. We're going through every issue of Excalibur one at a time, and it's sort of like a movies by minute podcast, but it's issue by issue of the not the TV show, the comic book series Excalibur, this X-Men spinoff that ran for 10 years, and we've been doing that and sort of doing a deep dive into what makes every issue tick. So those are the two things that I do, and then I'm also I'm on the internet. I'm at Chris Maverick everywhere.
Very cool.
Just to show you how one track my mind is, when you said sexy TV, I was thinking silk stockings and Baywatch.
We will, yeah. So we're for the Vox Popcast, we're partnering with this other show called Sex Love Literature, which is another podcast that they talk mostly about romance and sex and stuff, but we will talk about stuff like silk stockings. I'll be sure to bring that up, because we're literally going to talk about the history of like how we got to a world where where the CW, which I actually like, is a viable network, right? Like you'll talk about like I very much enjoyed the 100 on the CW. I thought it was a great show. I so loved that show, but it's odd because, like Pam Anderson in this movie, the apocalypse is happening, but your hair's got to be perfect. It's so important. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a TV show that I don't know if do you guys watch The Magicians?
My wife.
Oh yeah,
did.
The Magicians
I've
was
seen it.
great. I love The Magicians, so we'll talk about that. So yeah,
because I think it was a book series.
It is, but Lev Grossman, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is a book series that is not as good as the TV show.
For sexy TV, I would blame Miami Vice,
yeah,
and probably soap operas.
Yeah, a lot of them are very soap opera heavy.
Yeah, those would be my catalyst for the sexy revolution of TV.
Well, that's what we're doing. So, like, I guess
cool.
Probably around the time this one's dropping, that's probably either our recent episode or coming up episode.
I'm going to turn this one right around. This will go up this Wednesday. So.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
okay. Then this Wednesday, then you're probably if this week then we're probably talking about Dune, which I've already recorded. I'm just thinking about what's coming up in our. So the Sexy TV is probably in 2 weeks for your listeners.
Cool.
So
Right
subscribe to us. We we always want to see news. So, and check the back episode for the one that Travis was on because it was really good. Patrick,
yeah, that was
come
fun.
on sometime. Yeah.
Talk some silk stockings. Yeah. No.
I will totally talk silk stockings, and I know a guy who will absolutely do. If we did an episode, one regular guest, I'm sure would love to talk like old bad television. Do you guys are doing movies? Do you remember Manimal?
I don't.
Oh, I don't. I just know of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Manimal is all of them, all available on YouTube. So great. So great. Awful movie. Awful TV show, but like so much a part of its time. So.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. Patrick, what are we watching next?
Well, I don't know if we want to accept this mission, but it's already ticking, so
yeah,
might as well. We're going Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise.
Oh,
talk about a switch.
Yeah,
same year,
180. Yeah, same month. Barb Wire came out in May 3rd of '96, and Mission Impossible was May 22nd. So.
I saw them both in the theaters. I guess I saw them both the same month.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
those are a double feature at a drive-in. Good Lord. So yeah, a bit of a whiplash action going on as far as quality goes.
Yep.
And budget.
I'll be curious to see if you guys think it holds up.
I've not. I was telling Patrick before we started, I haven't seen Mission Impossible maybe one time since it first released on VHS.
Yeah.
So it's not a movie I'm super well versed in. I mean, I know it by reputation. More so than
I know.
Yeah.
I've seen it more recently than you, I guess, but not in years and years and years. I probably watched it 10 or 15 years ago, and what surprised, I don't know. I mean, certainly well into the DVD age. I don't know exactly when, but I think it was just like a thing that it's like, oh, it's on HBO. I'll watch this again. Like there was it was just sort of, I caught it at some point. And what I remember about it is, and I'll be curious to see what you guys think when you guys watch it. The technology, the future tech in Mission Impossible seems so out of date. Like by like 2010 standards or whenever I was watching it, it just seemed like, like they don't know. If I remember correctly, I think they don't know about the internet.
Oh, okay.
And so there's like things like that, and there's lots of carrying around floppy disks and stuff. Like it's a lot of that, and I don't remember exactly because again it's been 10 years since I watched it, but 10 years ago it just seemed like they did not, because it would have been 96, and it's like they did not know where they were going to be literally 5 years later. They're like
I equate the first Mission Impossible to the first Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. They're stealing DVD players.
Yes.
I think I'm expecting Mission Impossible to feel a lot like GoldenEye.
Yeah.
So
I could see that. I've seen it recently, so
okay.
Like I own all the Mission Impossibles. It's my guilty pleasure.
Okay.
And it's a lot like Fast and the Furious, where you got some stinkers mixed in at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it picks up, a little bit later, oddly.
More crazy, insane stuff.
So it's definitely got its ebbs and flows of the series, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Well, cool. So that'll be fun to talk about. We might do a character review episode between Barb Wire and Mission Impossible. We'll see. But yeah, that'll be the next movie, Mission Impossible. So, Mav, thank you so much for joining us. This was kind of a long time coming.
Thank you so much. This has been fun. Yeah. Oh God, it was probably a year ago when you asked me to do it, and I'm like, I was like, Barb Wire, because again, and I said when you said you weren't going to do it, I'm like, oh, well, then you're cowards, and I didn't even. And then I was like, well, sure, I'll do the show if you do Barb Wire,
right?
And then I realized, and then I remember right after that conversation, I'm like, what am I committing to? Why am I saying this?
No stakes in this game.
Yeah, I could have picked, Dark Knight or something.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yep, and we only allow guests on once, so this is it.
Yep.
This
So,
is my shot. Yeah.
This is what you picked. So you live here now.
I'll let him come back for the 1997 Steel Shaquille O'Neal
Oh
vehicle.
God, that's so bad. That is such a bad movie.
I mean, it's right in your wheelhouse with Barb Wire. I mean,
No,
a physical
it's-
novelty
wow.
act leading an action movie. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
we'll see if that one's like Casablanca too.
you all enjoy that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that's gonna do it. So until next time.
Don't call me babe.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. This is your mission should you choose to accept it. Should you or any member of your IM force be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow all knowledge. Ethan Hunt will be your point man as usual. Good luck, Jim.
Simple game. Is he serious?
Always.
It's much worse than you think. We're being ambushed. Abort, that's an order. They knew we were coming. Do you read me? I don't care how he did it. I want to know why he did it. You're worried about me. Why you survived.
I'm sure we can find something I have that you need.
No one sent me.
These guys are trained to be ghosts. Let's not waste time chasing after him. Just make him come to us. Find something that's personally important to him, and you squeeze.
This whole operation was a decoy.
I can understand you're very upset.
You've never seen me very upset.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.